It might be another long video. Sorry. Maybe the camera will run out of memory. Spare you. So yeah, I got a long one, Professor Anton Pirro. Now I'm going to respond to 3 videos, I think. One by this Tranquil 87, I think it is, something like that anyway. He apparently did a video to the Modern Mystic. I have him blocked, so apparently I don't like this guy much. And anyway, but really stupid video. Anyway, I get to that. Fred, who made a video on bulkware, you know, the idea that we are eccentric, sort of my argument. And so I'd like to go into that a little bit. And to be serious, I did a little hope video. You know, there's hope. And so anyway, I watched these 2 inane, horrible videos she linked to. One of them was just this. Well, I'll do her video first. I mean, one of them was just a guy with the same old platitudes. We've got to believe in our believability, and we are believable because we're believable, because we believe in believing. I mean, it was just, you know, absolutely nothing. You know, unless you're going to qualify what you're for, Adolf Hitler could have made that speech, you know. I mean, it was just, it had absolutely nothing. It had nothing in it. It was just a pep talk. I mean, it was a win-win for the Gipper kind of bullshit that anybody could say about any policy at any time. So anyway, just nonsense, rubbish. The second guy, some Australian guy, talking basically how, oh yeah, we're really in deep shit. And that the solution is, yeah, we have to accept a reduction in our lifestyle, blah, 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 and human beings are capable of this, and, well, we can do it. But no real explanation of anything real. So his suggestion is, you know, there's a web search engine apparently that gives the money, most of it, to rainforest protection. What that means, I don't even know. What do they do? Tie themselves to a rainforest? Do they buy rainforest? What do they do with the money? But this whole idea that charities are going to solve our problems, and that charitable contributions through for-profit businesses are going to solve our problem, is just bullshit. Now, the answer to capitalism and the corruptions it creates is for we the people to start financing our own businesses. People, you know, businesses not for profit, unowned enterprises that function for the service of the workers and the consumers, and don't pay owners. That's the solution. Gimmicky little, you know, band-aid solutions are not a solution. So anyway, it was just a pile of crap, nothing to be hopeful about. The guy basically spelled it out. We've got huge, theoretically, demand on resources coming in the future. Just preposterously huge. And no way, just no conceivable way that we have any way of satisfying the needs of that demand. Yeah, there's going to be some fire, not just smoke. But anyway, so yeah, it was just, again, you know, people are going to talk about how the human race has some capacity to get beyond these functional limitations, and they base this argument on just mush, absolute mush. They ought to make some sort of real argument for some sort of real policy, and one of those policies has got to be, you know, a rational lifestyle. You can't have kids, you can't live on growth, you can't live on this idea that we have to have little, you know, young people to support old people and all this other kind of crap. Guess what? Human lives have to be self-sustaining. They have to invest in their own future, and they can't be relying on others to subsidize it. We got to end all these subsidies, and certainly end the subsidies for having children. Anything that encourages people to have more children. That's got to go. And the only way it can go in the world is the civilized nations have to demonstrate through their behavior. They have to do better than the rest of the world. They have to show the rest of the world how to do it, and how to do it right. They can't just be hypocrites and point their finger and say you can't have what we have. They have to explain how you can have something better. We'll show you how we did it the wrong way. We'll show you how we're going to do it the right way. That kind of approach. It's got to be some sort of proof here. Not all this talk about what's possible, talk about what we can make happen realistically. So anyway, really irritating bullshit. So I guess I'll do Fred next. So that's sort of an interesting concept, this idea of how did nature build us and why did it build us the way it built us. And it all comes down to basically, yeah, it's just eating machines. You know, they consume this sunlight stuff, the energy that's available, let's call it, whether it's cosmic rays or it doesn't really matter. Any kind of energy. And the molecular structure feeds on the energy to create the mechanical process of storage of energy, and then it releases that through reproduction and creates a new organism. And that's the dynamic. And if it wasn't for this stuck on an island planet thing, it would probably just stay pretty simple, because there would be no need for it to get better, or for it to change. Let's not even say get better, let's just say change. Change is provoked because of the island nature, because everything started having to compete for its space. And so diversity meant opportunity for advantage. And it was an advantage over an environment, it was usually an advantage over your fellow competitors. And so the game was on, the competition was on. And the idea is to climb this advantage mountain. But it's an illusion. There's no victory in it. Becoming the best at consuming and reproducing is not a meritorious accomplishment. But that's all that the machinery has been out to accomplish. That's the only game in this town of nature. And so yeah, we've been constructed with all these, just a ton of eccentric elements, because we're competing on ages of competition, ages of what worked in what environments. And now there are all these niches. There's that niche, and there's that niche, and that niche, and that niche, and that niche, and that niche. There's all kinds of places to find the ability to wipe out whatever exists there, or to feed on it, to maintain your existence. And so that's all we've been doing. And so you acquire these eccentric abilities: flight, sight, sound, hearing, all these senses that are just basically exist only because they gave us a competitive advantage. They're our version of brass knuckles in the fight. Another way we can punch the other guy's lights out, so our DNA gets into the future. And so yeah, we are bulkware. We're hugely, preposterously tool excessive, but only because that's the demands of this reality, of this format, of what the system is designing. And it's just designing hardware, capable of exploiting an environment and nothing else. People, hey pup, there you go. Yeah, but yeah, that's what we are. We're not made in God's image, certainly, and the only game is this, create a fancy enough creature, give it more teeth, give it better sight, give it a stronger kung fu grip, whatever is required to make it dominant, like this bamboo. It's a dominant plant. Yeah, I think there was something more I wanted to add to that. But yeah, if you take the wide view, as sort of pointed out in the next video, of this natural process, it's just a molecule. It's just a molecule that is kind of just feeds on reproducibility. Feeds is probably the wrong word, But that's what it just exists for no other purpose, no other function. And we're just a reflection of what it does when certain circumstances take place. And as I pointed out, one of those circumstances was the annihilation of the dinosaurs through a huge extinction event. You know, if that didn't take place, these little intelligent scurvies would have never achieved their day in the sun. And that the game would have been seen for what it really is without us on it, without us in it. The dominant game is teeth and claws, venom, stingers, just nasty ass shit. That's what evolution is up to. We're an aberrant, not the meme, not the mean. Anyway, alright, enough on that subject. Alright, now onto this Tranquil guy. So he made this video kind of ragging on Nick's video, and I thought the argument was sort of bogus. Oh, another tree came down. Very rotten one. Look at that, nice bend to it. It's a lovely arc. It's a rainbow. Yeah, wooden rainbow. Ooh. So go look for some gold or something. Yeah, so yeah, it was just kind of bogus. And I thought Nick just acquiesced to it way too passively. I mean, if I had made that video, he might have been pissed off. You know, he's sort of arguing there's a contradiction for Nick to say, well, look, if silly humans have to do something, maybe the best thing for the silly humans to do is quit putting on the silly suit. You know, just quit suiting up to be silly. Because the game really can't be fixed. And, you know, because Nick says everything's futile, he said pretty clearly that in the face of that futility, the most unfutile thing to do is to end the futility. Is quit playing a futile game and wind that down. And you could still feel good. You could still live your little personal lives by the necessity of a personal life and ego gratification. I mean, Nick said this shit in his video. He made these distinctions, sort of, between what you have to do as a human, a living human. You have to have some illusion of accomplishment, some reason to keep marching into the future. You have to contrive that. But yeah, he was making a philosophical argument as one of those creatures that in the end, the chase isn't going anywhere. It's futile. That's what he was saying was futile. He didn't say all action is irrelevant. Certainly it makes a difference whether you knife somebody in the head or you don't knife somebody in the head. It has a consequential, meaningful difference. If you cause one more bucket full of suffering, it's one more bucket full of suffering. And this guy was almost talking like if you prevent people from giving birth, that you haven't prevented anything. Well, of course you have. If you stop somebody from eating meat, you've saved one pig. I mean, it's just a fact. Can't be argued. It's not futile or pointless. The pointlessness is in the contrivance of purpose outside of cleaning up the mess. This is the argument I've made before. If it wasn't for a pre-existing negative circumstance, i.e. the world sucks, disease sucks, life isn't perfect, it's a mess, we'd have no redeeming mission. Our individual lives could produce absolutely nothing of value because we would be incapable of creating some positive, that we didn't create a negative first. I mean, the surest way to make a positive is to eliminate a negative. So if you're born into a world with no negatives, you obviously can't erase negatives to find accomplishment, to find purpose. You have to have a real true positive. And that's the difference. But it's just a simple fact that, yeah, it makes it real easy not to have a futile existence as a person, as an individual, when you live in a very messy world. You can be incredibly productive as an individual human in a dirty, messy world. But if you stop the messy world, if you prevent it, well then obviously you're not going to have any capacity to generate a positive, at least by replacing negatives, or reducing negatives, or eliminating negatives. So that's the argument here, putz. You're just, you're not thinking this all the way through. You know, preventing a war, you have to have a war to prevent a war. You know, you have to have the negative exist before you can do the positive of curing it. And the argument being made here is that's all we've got. There isn't anything else. And what creates the negative circumstance? Well, the negative circumstance is created by the existence of the vulnerable sentience. So if the vulnerable sentience don't exist, there's nothing to hold ransom. There's no gun at anything's head. So we can't be extorted anymore. You know, there's no victim. So there's no need to campaign or work or stop or prevent or do any of those things, because there's nothing at stake. And as long as you keep putting a victim in the game, something that can be harmed, well then you're going to have to manage the game. Then you're going to have to take responsibility for what can happen to the victim. And now it isn't futile. It doesn't have a purpose because you're still just on a rescue mission. The sensible thing to do isn't to show up after the fire's burning. The sensible thing to do is prevent the fire. Yeah, so just multiply that analogy times 1,000 different analogies like that. You know, the point is not to bandage the lump on your head. The point is, don't throw the rock in the air that landed on your fucking head. You know, prevention is the game. Symptoms has purpose, but it's terribly inefficient. Go for the disease. And the disease is the need machine of the sentient organism. Yeah. Sorry, kind of breath disabled. Air quality, I suspect. Allergic and such. Anyway, well, we got through it. No one was terribly harmed in the process. But anyway, yeah, as futile goes, the least futile thing to do is to make arguments for reason and the truth, rationality and logic. If there's a less futile thing to do, that's it. There's nothing wrong with Nick's video. There was something profoundly wrong with your accusation of contradiction. Oh, till next time.